Hello everyone, and welcome back for the final time to Waza Wednesday. As of the posting of this video, tomorrow will mark the year anniversary since our Sensei Richard Poage's passing from complications due to brain cancer. In the year following his death, we wanted to continue his pet project of Waza Wednesday, continue his legacy of teaching people and sharing martial arts with the world. It was one of the things that he really enjoyed doing. Teaching was really his passion in life when it came to karate. He wanted to share as much of it as he could with as many people as he could. So with that in mind, our final episode of Waza Wednesday is not going to be just a single technique or a concept or a drill or an exercise. Instead, we're going to have members of our dojo share stories with you and techniques with you and ideas with you, memories that they all were able to take away from Sensei Poage's teaching.
Richard and I started Peaceful Warrior in 2010 with the intention of growing a community where martial arts brings families together. It creates mindfulness and health between people. And it really wasn't until his passion and drive and will and love shined that we went from being a community to a family. Since we have all come together and run this school together as a family for the past year, a lot of times when it might be difficult for me to make a decision, I always think WWSPD. What would Sensei Poage do?
Each, right arm up, elbow. Left up, elbow, back up. Now this time start with your left hand. Knee. 1, 2, back up. Now start with the right. Some. Back up.
The thing I remember most about Sensei Poage is that he was a very humble man, and he was good at what he did, and he never bragged or boasted about it. Especially in tournament team when I joined, I didn't know how good and talented he was at everything until I saw him win all of his age divisions. And he was always the first one he was always the one to receive the first place medal, and he never bragged about it. He just received it with a gracious heart.
That he was very talented because he practiced a lot. And that's how he got talented. I had to keep on practicing.
Sensei taught me if you're down a point in sparring or if you mess up in your kata, just don't think about it and keep going.
When I was taking a class with Poage, he taught us different things, and one thing that I learned that was always stuck in my head was he asked me, in a fight, would being fast, strong, or smart, which one would be better? And she questioned and she thought smart, and she said it doesn't matter if you're strong or fast, the important thing is that you're smart and you know how to protect yourself.
One of the things I learned from Sensei Poage is how to be faster in your sparring. Like, for example, if you're all too stiffened up, your muscles are not going to react as fast as you normally like it to. But when you loosen up a bit, that's when you realize you're going to start getting faster in your sparring.
One thing that Sensei Poage imparted onto me that really stuck with me was his ideals with sparring and how good he was at it and how much I wanted to emulate that. He really encouraged it, and it still sticks with me to this day.
Sensei taught me how to be respectful of others, and he taught me how to better control my actions in the world.
Another thing I also learned from Sensei Po is that no matter how far you get in life, whether you become a black belt or CEO of a company or perhaps a big-time architect, then you always have to make sure you treat other people with respect. You should never let your ego get in the way of doing so.
One thing Sensei taught me was that never use your karate unless you felt like you were gonna get hurt really bad.
I think the only thing that overshadowed Richard's tenacity and his amazing physical skills were his generosity, his respect for the students and the families of them, and just his overall sense of decency. I've been a part of dojos for many, many years, and in quite a few of them, the dojo was all about the instructor. Everything focused on the instructor. And the instructor, instead of focusing on the students, the instructor would show you something. And that's it. And that has a lot of limited application. It doesn't really apply outside of the dojo. Richard's approach, one of the things that he really hammered home, at least from my perspective, is that he wouldn't show you something, he would share it with you. And he would encourage you to develop it on your own, add your own signature, explore it, whatever it might be, a technique, a kata, something like that. And you combine that with the fantastic sense of community that both he and Sensei Tiffany have created in this place, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Everybody in Peaceful Warrior encourages each other and pushes each other to be better. And that has fantastic application outside of the dojo. And we're genuinely excited when you succeed. This is just an amazing place. And I can't thank Richard enough for giving me that type of a perspective, and for Sensei Tiffany to continue that after his passing.
He had ridiculous jokes, and his students just absolutely adored him. They would laugh. I mean, he could go from like joking and playing around to getting everyone in line and turning that around, and everyone's serious and they're working on their martial arts. But he had that ease about him. People, especially the kids, the students, didn't fear him. They adored him, but they respected him.
I had the good fortune to meet Sensei Poage a few years back when I started learning martial arts under him. And while much can be said about his dedication to his students and his dedication to his craft of martial arts, I'd like to talk a little bit about his understated sense of humor. Sensei Poage always tried to introduce humor into his classes, either to make a point or to bring some levity to the class. And I'll just share an anecdote about his skills at bringing humor into a situation to teach. So in a Hojo Ondo class or supplementary training class, we were working with different pieces of equipment, the chi-ishi and the dumbbells and so on. And for the I had a difficulty in remembering the name of this piece of equipment that we used in the supplementary training. And for the life of me, I just couldn't remember the name, even after it was told to me several times in the class. And then Sensei Poage made a joke. He said something on the lines of, you know, this piece of equipment is what Barbie's boyfriend would be called if he had gone to Africa. It's the Congo Ken. And sure enough, I'll never forget it, that piece of equipment is called a Congo Ken, Barbie's boyfriend in Africa.
Trying to get people to remember that Thai pads are not pad Thai, and then saying he was hungry.
Some of the jokes with the kids, anytime a kid had a question and they'd raise their hand, Sensei Poage would just look at them and say, "You need a high five?" And then he'd come over and give them a high five, and he would never answer the question. Like, he would never even acknowledge that they had their hand up for a question. It was really funny, and the parents would be cracking up. It was always funny to watch the looks on some of the students' faces, especially in the teen and adult classes, because he'd show something ridiculous. I mean, some ridiculous flying, spinning, side kick, something or other, and then he'd show it like once and he'd go, okay, try it, and he'd walk away. So, and then the faces on there, everyone's like,
When I was younger, one of the things that Sensei taught me was how to throw back a fish after catching it. Turns out the wrong thing to do is chuck it like a baseball halfway across the lake, more than just placing it into the water.
If we go right in here, boom, pop, 1, 2, right? Then you can come through your throw if you want. If you need more than that.
A couple of the self-defense techniques Sensei taught me were kimono grab and crash of the eagle.
One of the techniques I liked that Sensei Poage taught me is the defensive side kick for sparring, because once an opponent rushes in, if they extend too much, I can use my side kick to push them back.
Sensei taught me a lot of different things, not just martial arts related, but just about life and how to handle yourself. But one of the earliest points he made in class about a technique that stuck with me enough that I wrote it down. It's one of the first things I ever wrote down that he taught me. Was pretty simple, but at the time it seemed groundbreaking to me. And it was just, he said that if you want to kick somebody in the head, you should put their head where it's easier to kick. Instead of kicking somebody's head up here, put them in an arm bar, throw them on the ground, make it easier to reach. And that's a pretty simple and straightforward idea, but at the time, that just kind of came across as brilliance to me. And he never stopped doing that. He never stopped being brilliant. Every time I'd come to class, he'd have something that would stick in my mind.
He lived karate, he studied, he researched, he tried new things, he consistently pushed himself to grow. He was never afraid, ever. He had no self-doubt. If there was something that he didn't know, he would figure out how to do it. And that was all there was to it.
Hit him right here. Now you can be a little softer with it. Like in sparring, I do this a lot to people, where you tap the hand and come in. I use that to block the hand. But all over his head is right here. So this, you know, when you're doing this 1, 2, that's what you're looking at. Hands up, 1, 2.
He never turned down a challenge in business or personal endeavors. When he made a goal, he persevered until he reached it. He was always confident yet humble. He never had to show off, you know, everyone just knew how amazing he was. And he taught with passion and grace, and he met students exactly where they were. And although he gave little nudges, he never pressured, he never made anybody feel bad or unworthy. He showed them how capable they were. I think the most important thing for me is that he taught me to love the martial arts again.
Something that Sensei Poage taught me was perseverance. And of course he taught me all my martial arts, but I think the character quality of perseverance was the most important. There is multiple times where I've broken bones in competition, where I've had to do my first degree black belt test on a broken foot. And if there's one thing that Sensei Poage always emphasized was, you gotta just keep pushing forward, no matter how tough it is, but just don't give up. And I think I've always wanted to mirror that quality about him. And even to the end, you could tell he just didn't give up. And so that'll live on. Thanks, Sensei.